Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something really practical, a mission, you could say.
Yeah, definitely actionable.
We're diving into a guide that's specifically designed for intermediate English learners. And the goal, to find the absolute shortest path to fluency when you're just, talking about your day.
Right. We're not getting lost in abstract grammar here.
No, none of that.
Yeah.
We're focused on extracting the actual structural tools you need, the things that make you sound confident, clear, and, natural.
And that desire for quick, structured knowledge, that's exactly what our source seems to deliver. It's really focused on turning that basic timeline of your day, the list of I did this, then I did that, into a story that actually flows coherently.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, for a lot of learners that jump from just listing things to narrating their day, it's a big one.
It really is.
So we're going to break down the essential bits, the foundations, looking at it chronologically.
Yeah.
Morning, afternoon, and evening.
Okay, let's jump right in then. Morning, where the day starts. The guide immediately points to one rule you just can't ignore for this part of the day.
The past tense, right?
Exactly. When you talk about what you did, completed actions, you absolutely have to anchor it in the past tense. It sort of tells the listener, okay, this happened, it's real.
It's fundamental.
Yeah.
And what's great is the guide doesn't just say, use the past tense. It actually gives you the words, the high-frequency verbs you'll probably need.
Yeah, the core vocabulary, yeah. Things like, I woke up, I took a shower, got dressed, I had breakfast, I checked my phone. Basic stuff, but essential. They're like the building blocks. But what I found really helpful was how they show you stringing them together, so it doesn't sound so robotic.
Right, not just isolated phrases. Yeah, instead of 3 separate facts, the example they give flows. I woke up a little late today, around 7:30. I made some coffee, had breakfast, and got ready for work. See? It sounds more like someone just telling you about their morning. It does sound like a narrative. That chain of verbs helps. But okay, here's where it gets interesting for that intermediate level. The first real step up, maybe?
Oh, what's that?
It's a detail that, honestly, a lot of guides miss. They specifically tell you to include feelings in your morning description.
The aha moment. Okay, but why? Why feelings? I mean, shouldn't intermediate learners just focus on getting the verb tense right first? Isn't that complicated enough?
Well, that's probably why many learners do skip it. They focus so much on technical accuracy that they forget about sounding natural. But think about it. When you add how you felt, saying I felt tired or maybe I was in a good mood, you instantly shift gears. You go from just listing activities, like a robot reporting data, to giving a real, authentic account. You're letting the listener in, adding some personality. And frankly, it makes the story more listenable.
That makes a lot of sense. No one really cares that you had breakfast unless maybe you were feeling grumpy about it or excited for the day.
Exactly. It's the difference between just spitting out information and actually communicating, sharing, and experience.
Got it. So the morning sets the scene. Past tense for facts and feelings for flavor. Right. Moving on then. The sun's up. We're into the main part of the day, the afternoon. The guide suggests the structure kind of shifts here, right?
Yeah, because the afternoon is often about more scheduled stuff.
Yeah.
Work, maybe school, meetings, appointments, that sort of thing.
So the language needs to match that, pretty much. The phrases become more functional, more task-oriented. Things like, I worked from 9 to 5, or I had a meeting with my boss, I studied English online, maybe I met a friend for lunch. Instantly useful phrases for most adults, right? Very practical. But describing the afternoon, structurally speaking, seems less about the verbs themselves and more about sequence, keeping track of time.
You've hit it. If the past tense was the anchor for the morning, the afternoon really hinges on using connectors, sequence words.
Why are they so critical here?
Because without them, your description can just sound like this rapid-fire list of things that happened, but the listener has no idea in what order or how they relate. It gets confusing fast.
Okay, so what kind of connectors are we talking about? We're talking about the simple, straightforward ones first. The guide highlights the real workhorses. Then after that, later, and sometimes finally, if you're summing up, they're like little signposts for the listener. Gotcha. They signal, okay, this happened, then this next thing happened.
Precisely. They manage the flow of time in the narrative. Crucial for clarity.
Can you illustrate that? Like, if someone just said, I worked on a new project, I answered emails, I had lunch with a coworker, that feels disconnected, totally disjointed. It's just a list. Now, listen to how the guide suggests structuring it, even subtly. My afternoon was busy. I worked on a new project, answered emails, and had lunch with a coworker. Okay, so the "and" helps link the first two.
Right. It implies sequence. Or
Hmm.
you could explicitly say, I worked on a new project, then I answered emails, and after that I had lunch. Using those connectors, whether implicitly with and for close actions or explicitly with then or after that, is what makes it a smooth sequence, not just bullet points.
It guides the listener through your afternoon timeline. Makes sense. Okay, so afternoon, sequential clarity via simple connectors. What about the end of the day, the evening?
So the evening often shifts again. Less rigid structure, maybe more focus on unwinding personal stuff, family, or perhaps study.
And the language reflects that. Yeah, you see phrases like, after work, I went to the gym, or I cooked dinner and watched a movie, or maybe something like, I studied English for 30 minutes before bed. Okay, sounds straightforward. But you mentioned earlier the structure gets a bit more complex.
It does. For the evening, the guide suggests stepping up the game a bit. It's often not enough to just use then or after that. To sound genuinely fluent at this intermediate stage, you need to start using more sophisticated temporal phrases.
Well, hang on. More sophisticated. Why? If then worked for the afternoon, why complicate things? Can't I just say, I cooked dinner, then I watched a movie? Isn't adding things like before or while just harder?
That's a really good question. And it gets to the heart of moving from basic description to actual fluency. Simple connectors like then are great for a simple sequence. A happened, then B happened. Easy.
Right. But evenings are often messier, right? You might do things at the same time, or one activity directly leads into another or depends on another.
Okay, I see where you're going. So the guide specifically pushes using phrases like after that, but also before, and especially while. Because these words let you handle more complex relationships between actions.
Okay. So, like your example, I studied English for 30 minutes before bed. The before links the studying directly to bedtime. It shows a relationship, not just sequence.
Exactly. It shows dependency. And while wait is even better for showing things happening simultaneously, which, let's be honest, happens a lot in the evening. I listened to a podcast while I was cooking dinner.
Right, multitasking.
Yeah. Being able to use before and while correctly shows you have more control. You're managing complex time relationships, not just listing things A, B, C. It's a big step towards sounding more sophisticated, more natural. It definitely feels like moving from a simple checklist in the afternoon to, well, describing interconnected events in the evening. The example they gave captures that. After dinner, I watched a few videos in English, then I went to bed around 11. Hmm. See, it starts with that framing phrase.
Yeah.
After dinner connects the next action with a simple then, but the whole structure feels more layered than just I ate dinner, then I watched videos, then I went to bed.
Yeah, that combination feels much more natural. It compresses the information.
And that ability to handle those dependent clauses, the while and the before, it's a real marker of intermediate skill. Native speakers do it constantly without thinking. Okay, so we've got the key pieces. Anchor in the past tense. Add feelings for authenticity. Use simple connectors for afternoon sequences. And upgrade to more complex temporal phrases like before and while for the evening. That's the structural toolkit. That's the core of it.
But just knowing this isn't enough, right? The guide talks about actually using it, the application piece. Crucial part. Yeah, the guide is really clear. Passive knowledge isn't the goal. You have to actively use this framework every single day. How do they suggest doing that?
They recommend forcing yourself to practice by answering 4 specific questions out loud every day. It's like a mini workout for your speaking muscles, using exactly the structures we've just discussed.
Ah, forced practice. I like it. What are the questions? They must be designed to hit those specific points. They are. Perfectly tailored.
It's basically it.
It's basically, 1, what time did you wake up today?
That forces the past tense and a time expression right away. Okay.
2, what did you do in the morning? Past tense again. And it's the natural place to practice adding those feelings we talked about. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. 3. What was your afternoon like? This pushes you to use those simple sequence connectors. Then after that, later. Right, the chronological flow. And finally, 4. How did you spend your evening? And this is where you practice those slightly trickier ones. While before, after.
Wow, okay. Answering those 4 questions out loud every day?
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a really smart, targeted way to build the habit. It takes the guesswork out of what to practice.
Exactly. You're not just randomly trying to speak, you're deliberately using the target structures. It makes the abstract rules feel more like a reflex over time.
And it doesn't have to be long, right?
No, that's the beauty of it. The guide stresses consistency over length. And this practice directly feeds into the ultimate takeaway, the kind of so what of the whole thing.
Which is, what's the single most important message here? It's boiled down to this simple, powerful idea. The best way to improve fluency is to talk about your daily life every day, even if it's just for 1 or 2 minutes. 1 or 2 minutes. That feels achievable. Totally, it's about the consistency. That daily repetition using the specific structures we outlined, the past tense, the feelings, the right connectors, for the time of day, that's what builds fluency.
So the structure makes the daily practice easier, and the daily practice makes the structure automatic. It's a cycle. You got it. The guide basically hands you a ready-made template for your daily story. You don't have to stare at a blank page thinking, what do I say now? You know the framework. Morning past tense, feeling. Afternoon sequence with symbol connectors. Evening-related actions with complex connectors. Fantastic. Okay, let's quickly recap them. According to this source, the absolute essentials for talking about your day fluently are: ground everything in the past tense, inject emotional context early on, especially in the morning, to sound human, and then crucially use sequence connectors, the simple ones like then and after that for the afternoon flow, and the more advanced ones like before and while to handle the complexity of the evening.
That's the toolkit in a nutshell. And the real benefit of learning this structured approach, beyond just, talking about your day better, it's confidence.
Oh, right.
Having that framework ready to go means you're prepared. You're not scrambling.
Mm-hmm.
And that sense of preparedness, that confidence, is the perfect bridge to what the source hints at as the next step.
Which is?
Sounding more confident in conversations more broadly.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really sound confident if you're constantly tripping over how to structure basic ideas like your daily routine.
Yeah.
This provides that foundation.
It gives you the building blocks and the blueprint so you can walk into conversations feeling more equipped.
Exactly.
All right. So let's leave you, our listener, with a final thought, sort of building on this idea of structure. We've seen how segmenting your day, morning, afternoon, evening, and applying specific linguistic tools to each part helps build fluency and clarity when talking about your life.
So here's the question to ponder. If applying this kind of segmented chronological structure can improve language clarity, how might using a similar 3-part framework, maybe a beginning, middle, and or prep, execution, follow-up, improve clarity, organization, and maybe even confidence when you present complex ideas in your job or your studies or any other area where clear communication is key? Interesting question. Structure for language, structure for other things.
Something to think about. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.